Welcome to the Deal by Me podcast, where we ask guests to tell us your story. Hello there, this is Dr. James W. Smith, your host. We seek to transform lives by encouraging and inspiring. So when you listen to any of the Deal by Me podcast, please support this podcast with a donation or a monthly recurring amount for as little as $3. If you are viewing any of the podcast on YouTube, please subscribe. To supporters of this podcast, we say thank you. Check out my encouraging, inspiring, and transforming books that can be found on Amazon. I'm available for speaking engagements, in person, and virtual seminars. So please contact me by Facebook, X, and or LinkedIn. I have with me Gretchen Schoser, who is co host of an award winning mental health podcast and a dedicated advocate for the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. She is a suicide attempt survivor. Gresham combines a rich tech background with personal experience to inspire and empower. At 61, she created a company that champions resilience and growth. I'm excited to have Gresham come and share with us on this podcast. So, Gresham, again, I want to say thank you for coming and sharing with us. And so, would you tell listeners a little about yourself and where you're located?
I sure can. I am located in upstate New York in a very small farming community called Groton. We're right between Ithaca and Cortland. Um, for the past 2 years, I've been reinventing myself, trying to figure out life after a really bad mental health breakdown. I am very thankful to be alive every single day so I can inspire and give people hope.
Mm, mm. Gresham, that's exciting. I've had the opportunity to read your profile, and I'll be honest with you, you are the kind of guest that I always look for. Someone who has a story and who can say something that's very inspirational to listeners of this podcast. So I want to just begin by uh, saying again to you that thank you for wanting to just share your story. And so I want to ask you about uh, about your 988 crisis, suicide crisis lifeline. What inspired you to become an advocate for that, and what impact do you hope to achieve through this work?
Well, I became an advocate for 988 after my own personal mental health breakdown. On Christmas Day 2022, I attempted suicide. But thank God for that small glimmer of hope telling me that things were going to be okay. I ended up picking up the phone and calling 988.
Mm,
The woman on the other end of the line was the most compassionate person I've ever spoken to in my entire life. I'm alive today because of 988.
mm,
I'm a huge proponent for it. I will mention it everywhere I go because so many people don't realize that that number is available. And it's not just available for people who are in have suicide ideation or a suicide crisis. It's for any type of crisis. It's free. It's anonymous, and um, I hadn't known about the number until like the month before. But
mm-hmm,
the the last quarter of 2022 was probably the worst quarter of my life,
mm.
and I'm 61, so that says a lot. But I'm a huge proponent, and I became a mental health advocate after my own mental health crisis.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the time I was, terrified, and
Right.
I didn't know how to tell people what was going on with me because I didn't understand what was going on.
Rachel, in talking about this, was there anything particularly that you And I know sometimes these matters can be personal. So if it is, you don't have to mention it. But was there anything going on within your life that brought you to that point where you got to the point of almost committing suicide?
Yeah, there was a lot.
Okay.
So at the end of September 2022, I got a message from my company letting me know that I was available for early retirement.
Okay.
All in all, that should have been a good thing, but at the time I was 59 and a half, and there's ageism in the system, right? So
Mm-hmm.
looking for a job. On top of that, my wife got shingles. She was sick for 8 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
If you've known anybody who's had shingles before, you will know that there's absolutely nothing you can do to make them feel better.
Mm-hmm.
I hit a deer. I got catfished. A really good friend of ours passed away unexpectedly. My father in law passed away 2 days before Thanksgiving, throwing a little seasonal depression, a little holiday depression, and it was just a lot.
Mm-hmm.
At my age, I was taught you never talk about your mental health. You shove that down until there's absolutely no place for it to go. That was Christmas Day. And it was just too much for me to handle. And I am a true extrovert and a
Mm-hmm.
true empath. So I was taking on everybody else's pain, but not dealing with my own.
Mm-hmm.
And as an extrovert, I hid my depression really well. I'm not super proud of that
Mm-hmm.
because nobody knew what was going on inside me, right? People didn't ask those really open-ended questions or probing questions where you would have had to dig a little deeper to ask, answer it instead of, oh, hey, I'm fine. But in reality, all I wanted to do is die because I was just done.
Okay. Okay. Now I know at age 61, you've said it clearly. You started a new company. And so what was this company called and what motivated uh, this decision? And how do you integrate your personal experiences into your business? Can you talk about that a little bit for
I sure
listeners?
can. Yeah. So at 61, actually on January 22nd, 2025, I opened my own business. I'd been in corporate America for 45 years and I was just done, right? Like I knew I could do it better on my own and I needed to do that for my mental health. So I have 16 years of technical experience with UKG and I focus really on their recruiting and onboarding systems and implementations.
Hmm.
And then on the other side of my business is the wellness side. And I really want to work with customers, actually employers, and change management and making sure that they take employees' mental health into consideration when they're going through change management. Because I will tell you, in the 45 years that I've worked, only one company did it right. Most people don't think about employees' mental health
Mm.
when they're going through change, whether it's an org change, an application change, a layoff, any of those things. And I wanted to take my, personal life, lived life, and throw it into a business plan. And I'm going to tell you, it's the happiest I've been in probably 20 years.
Oh, wow. Wow. That's exciting. I I love hearing stories like this because you can feel the, I guess, joy that you have once you have made certain decisions as it relates to your life, and you say, oh, "Wow, I've been there, so I kind of know exactly where you are. I've had to do some of those same things myself, and the joy that you get when you know you have come out of something and you are where you feel like you ought to be and need to be." So thank you for just sharing so much of that. I assume that, you have said a little bit about your suicide attempt and how, and how you got there, but how did it shape your advocacy for mental health? Did it, is that the reason? I assume, but I want you to just maybe say a little bit more about it, uh, because you seem to be really gun ho now with 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. So, Tell us a little bit about that.
So, from my own personal experience, right?
Hmm.
The day after my suicide attempt, I opened up onto social media to let everybody know what was going on. And the only reason I did that is I have a lot of friends. And as
Okay.
soon as I did that, I had about 200 people reach out to me and say thank you because now they didn't feel so terrified and alone in their own journey. And you know that, as we share our stories and our journeys, we unlock somebody else's prison. So then
Mm-hmm.
they don't feel so terrified and alone.
Mm-hmm.
And because of all my advocacy, I my co-host at my co-host now, Dirty Skittles, we worked together, and I use this term super loosely. She was my manager for about 4 months, and then I retired. But we would laugh every day before work, and I found that my two healers were sharing my journey and laughing, and so we created our podcast. Thinking when we did it, we thought, oh, it's a joke. We're only going to do like 3 episodes. But what turned out to be a joke has turned out to be a mission for
Mm-hmm.
both of us. And our mission truly is to normalize how we talk about mental health. Because it's been such a taboo subject for years, right? Think about
Mm-hmm.
even 20 years ago, not a lot of people talked about it. Now it's at the forefront of like everybody's minds.
Mm-hmm.
And that's truly why I do this because I don't want people to feel alone and terrified.
Mm.
And I took my pain, that really hard, horrible pain, and turned it into purpose.
Okay.
And I want people to see me as a story of hope because believe me, I know what it feels like to be at the bottom of the barrel
Mm.
and wanting to be done. But I
Wow.
took all those lessons and built a beautiful podcast, built beautiful friendships across the world,
Mm-hmm. Oh,
and then
wow.
got this idea that you know what, I can make my own company,
Mm-hmm.
and it brought me great amounts of joy.
Mm. Mm. Wow. This is, I'm sitting here not knowing hardly what to say. I, I feel you because, see, I've been where you are, and not necessarily where you are now. I think I am where you are, but I've been where you were too. So, getting to that point is really heartwarming to me to hear somebody else who have moved through it and gotten to a point in life where they can say, "Oh, I'm better now than I've ever been in my life," and I've heard you say that. So I'm thank you so very much. Can you describe a moment, a conversation that significantly changed your perspective on mental health?
100%. So in our season one, we had one of my very dear friends. Her name was Liz, and on our episodes, we called her Bookie.
Mm-hmm.
She had terminal breast cancer, and the lessons I learned from that episode are things I carry with me today. Like her big thing was like she didn't have a bucket list.
Mm.
She lived for every day. She passed away about a month after we recorded with her, but it's one of our top listened to episodes because she was so authentic, right?
Mm.
And the great thing about the podcast is, we're never scripted. It's 100% authentic
Mm-hmm.
and organic. And she just shared this incredible story and journey with us. And um, it really opened up a lot of people's eyes. And it was a beautiful thing. I get chills just thinking about it because I remember it like it was yesterday.
Oh, wow. This is you're amazing. Very, very compelling. You know, I I'm not sure if I understand your technical expertise, uh, but if you whatever you're doing, if you consider that your technical expertise, then I just need to know, uh, does that how does that influence the way you approach mental health and wellness in your professional endeavors? Could you share that a little bit?
Yeah, so on the tech side, I know what it's like to go through like a software change, right? So
Okay.
you just have to like keep everybody's like keep everybody in mind. Everybody
Mm-hmm.
learns differently, everybody thinks differently, everybody's affected by it differently. So just coming at it with a holistic approach
Mm-hmm.
and giving people time to like soak things in and like not be in their face all the time.
Right.
Break things down into baby steps.
Mm.
Make it easier for them to learn, make
Right.
them understand what that future goal is.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, we're still in transition page here, but understand what that future is going to look like for you because most of my customers are coming from a paper environment to an
Mm-hmm.
electronic environment
Mm-hmm.
and they get scared. I mean, change is hard. And I like to take that approach and make sure that everybody feels comfortable, they feel heard, they feel seen,
Mm.
and at the end of the day, making sure that the software that they bought is working to like what their expectations are, but
Okay.
also making sure everybody's like mentally okay with it
Mm-hmm.
and that they understand why their company decided to go this route.
Oh, wow. Wow. I take it that you are the co-host of an award-winning mental health podcast. And so being a co-host, could you tell me, listeners, what have been some of the most impactful conversations you've had? As a podcaster myself, I know well, you're one, but I've had some, I mean, awesome guests and what they've said have stayed with me. And what you're saying to me today is really very impactful. So could you tell us a little bit about some of the ones that have impacted you most? You don't have to, mention names or anything of that nature, but is there a particular incident or whatever that you can remember or talk about?
Yeah, there's quite a few. Like the top four would be our friend Bookie.
Okay.
That conversation was amazing.
Mm,
Um, my our guest that came on, a mother and her son who is immunocompromised, and just his outlook on life.
mm-hmm,
He's 16 years old and like he's an old soul, but
mm.
he talked like an adult and
Wow.
very control of his life
Mm,
and understands what the future looks like for him, which is very different from our futures.
wow.
A lady that we had on who it was like 30 years ago, she got drugged at a party and it took him like 30 years to figure out what happened and get her
Mm,
on the right medication and get her to the right therapist.
mm-hmm,
Um, we've had Dirty Skittles' dad on. He's crazy eight. He's a therapist. So
mm-hmm,
he came in and like validated our podcast. And the reason why it's so good to have these types of podcasts. And then recently we've had a woman who is bulimic
mm-hmm.
and really changed her life.
Wow.
But people that are sharing these journeys, the thing with podcasters is that our message gets out so much further
Mm-hmm.
than TV or radio
Yeah.
because we can be listened to worldwide.
Mm-hmm.
So we touch a ton of lives.
Mm,
And we've had people reach back out to us and say thank you because
mm-hmm.
now they've gone and got the help that they needed. We've had guests that came on and told us how cathartic it was for them to be on the podcast
Mm.
and that they had never shared that story with anybody else.
Wow. Wow. Oh, what a exciting and amazing story you have. I started podcast about 3 years ago, and I did it probably about 6 months before I retired from my pastorate of 32 years at the same church because I wanted to keep my ministry going. And so I wanted to do something that I thought would be encouraging, inspiring, and hopefully transforming. And, I wasn't looking for anything else. I just wanted to help people. And I've had amazing guests like you and others who have just shared some interesting stories and how they overcome. And one of the things I ask, and I want to ask it of you, If there's somebody who is, facing uh, some of the same mental health challenges, maybe down, depressed, don't know how they're going to make it through the day, through the week, financial problems. It could be anything that seems to be just holding them down, and they are depressed as a result of it. Is there a encouraging word, inspiring word, or something that you would share with them that would hopefully be transforming, that would make a difference for them?
100%. So there's two resources. Um, if you're going through, if you're depressed, down, financially in crisis, there's two resources that I will always recommend. The first one would be 988
Mm-hmm.
because it is free. It's off, it's anonymous. They are amazing, amazing folks, and that number is available both in the U.S. and Canada. And then another resource would be the helphub.co, and it was designed by my friend Lisa Sugarman, and it is a central place of all the cross crisis lines throughout the country and throughout the world, and it's broken down by like topic. So you may not feel comfortable calling 988, but
Mm-hmm.
the resource, the Help Hub, has so many different resources out there.
Okay.
And believe me, you are not alone,
Mm.
not at all. And like you have these resources available to you. And I would say to anybody out there that is truly suffering, you are wanted, you are needed, and you're enough.
Well,
And there are
mm.
people out there that love you. So please make that call.
Well said. Well said. Well said. Listeners, please don't go to place. I have just a couple more questions, and that I like to engage with Gretchen. But before I move to that, those questions, conversation, I want to give Gresham the opportunity to share with you, listeners, how you can learn more about her, what she does, and just any information that she can share with you about what she does. Gretchen, would you do that now?
I certainly will. So I am the co-host to the podcast "Shit That Goes On in Our Heads," and that's shit with an exclamation point.
Mm-hmm.
You can find us at goesoninOurheads.net. We are a mental health focused podcast, and the uh, mission is to normalize how we talk about mental health. Uh, Last week, I stood up another podcast with my friend Lisa Sugarman. It's called The Survivors, and it's a suicide awareness podcast
Mm-hmm.
and giving people resources and reminding them that they are enough. And then I own my own company, and my company is Schoser Talent and Wellness Solutions. You can find me at schosersolutions.com. I'm always available to, help managers, HR teams, redefine how they talk about mental health in their own workplace.
All right, Grace, would you spell that name of your website? Sure. Spell it for
Yeah,
listeners, please.
yep, it's SCHOSER solutions, SOLUTIONS.com.
Okay. Thank you so very much for sharing. Listeners, I trust that you will hear this, and please keep it in your mind and your heart, because this is powerful information that Gresham is sharing with us today. Uh, Gresham, uh, how do you think conversations about mental health can be more inclusive and supportive, especially for older adults?
Yeah, that's tough. But you know what? We all go through depression, whether or not we realize it or not. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't realize what was going on with me. But if you are feeling down or kind of lost, find your one friend, that one friend that you can
Mm.
trust with anything, with everything,
Wow.
and just let them know what's going on. Because if people don't know what's going on, then they can't help you. And I am very guilty of that.
Mm-hmm.
because for 3 months, nobody knew what was going on with me. I hid my depression very well.
Hmm.
Um, Another thing you can do is, most of us have cell phones. Do a weekly check in with your friends via a text message. I do
Mm-hmm.
that on Sundays. I just check in with all my friends, find out how
Mm-hmm.
they're doing, and give them a little update. Staying in touch that way,
Mm-hmm.
if they want to reach back out, they'll reach back out. But letting people
Okay.
know that you care, that you actually care about them, and that you're
Mm-hmm.
concerned.
Hmm.
And
I love that.
empathy and kindness go a long way, especially in today's world.
Well said. Well said. Well said. Well said. Ah, question. I got a last question for you. What are the key lessons you've learned about resilience and personal growth that you believe everyone, I said everyone should know? Uh, I'm almost considering you now an expert at this. So talk to us a little bit.
I think the number one lesson is keep moving
Mm,
forward.
wow.
You can't go back and fix the past,
Hmm.
but keep moving forward.
Okay. Keep.
Believe in yourself, right? Like once you start believing in yourself,
Hmm.
then things start to turn a little.
Okay.
And if you're really like in a funk, like
Hmm.
go get therapy. I'm a huge proponent of therapy. Maybe 5 years ago I wasn't, but
Hmm.
now I am.
Okay.
And there's all sorts of different kinds of therapy. If talk therapy is not for you,
Hmm.
there's art therapy and energy therapy and EFT. There's a ton of therapy out there. But, also keep an open mind
Okay.
and remember that, some days suck more than others,
Okay.
but it's eventually going to get better.
Mm. Wow. Well said. Well said. Gretchen, you've been awesome. And I thank you for sharing with this podcast today. It's been a joy having you, joy talking to you. You've been a blessing, not only to me, but I'm certain you will have been be a blessing to listeners of this podcast. And again, I just want to say thank you.
Thank you for so much for having me. It was
Uh,
truly my honor.
Good. And there you have it, Gretchen Schoser sharing with us today. And until next time, peace and blessings be with each of you.